inZOI has taken the life sim genre by a storm.
The fact that AI art is in the game kind of ruins it for me.
So many back and forths with Sims 4 versus inZOI.
I know some people don't like to compare this game to The Sims, but what else is there to compare it to?
You've seen it, I've seen it, it's not new, but still, why are people so upset? It's been 20 plus years and we're finally getting a realistic option. That's so insane to think about that it took this long, but for real, look at this. They're making games like this with a successful publisher behind them. The potential for that alone is crazy. Yet there's been a lot of conversations recently that confuse me, but the one I find most interesting could be closer to the core issue than most. I have noticed there has been a group of people who feel comparison is a bad thing, which in my opinion makes zero sense to me. Genuine question. We all took English 101, correct? I swear I don't mean to be so condescending, but we really must stop saying this. We're not comparing human beings. We are comparing forms of entertainment. I've said this with The Sims and Paralives, and now we can throw inZOI into the mix. I just can't see it as a bad thing. So I feel compelled to do the most and figure out why comparison of video games is such a hot topic, and honestly a core part of the ugly side that's been active in the life sim community lately. To do that, I asked myself a couple of questions and came up with the best answers I could. Feel free to add your own 2 cents because I really want to know. Let's talk about this. Why do people hate comparing? Tribalism is very prevalent in all different kinds of communities, especially in video games. Often when players select their fave, they attach that to their personality and use it as an online persona to define who they are. How many times have you seen people say, "The Sims saved my life," or "This game has made me who I am"? There are more examples that give off that same vibe, but statements like these clearly show how they define themselves. So when people use a certain niche to represent themselves online and another player comes along and says another game is better, how do you think they will react? A. Recognize this is not a personal attack on them and agree to disagree. B. Ignore the criticism because who cares as long as they're having fun. C. Respond negatively and see opposing opinions as toxic or ungrateful. Or D. Result to personal insults and hate speech so the critics feel the same pain they felt. The answer should be A, but we all know it's C. Honestly, D happens a little too often and has been happening quite a bit lately. I would even love to see B more. It's okay to be a little delusional. You're not causing anybody any harm. I am fully convinced these crazy reactions are a result of feeling personally hurt by an opinion that was never about them. The reasoning they use to not compare can range from "it's not the same game" to "don't pin these games against each other." I can understand this to avoid putting one game down just to uplift another, but healthy comparisons are a thing. Honestly, they're very natural and very hard to stay away from if you really think about it. Why do people compare? It's been over 2 decades and The Sims has been a franchise of its own kind. We know nothing quite like this or that successful. So when we finally get an alternative that 1. Feels like a true evolution in next-gen gaming and 2. Markets itself as direct competition for The Sims, we immediately have questions. What is inZOI? What is in it? And do we like it? Those questions are answered the same way we found out we missed open worlds, wanted pools, toddlers, and decided on whether we liked the art style for The Sims 4. We compared to previous Sims titles. We use what we know to find our preferences and what we would want to see in the future. Isn't speculating possible features part of the fun when a new title is on the horizon? Haven't you noticed most are mechanics from a past Sims game? Comparison is everywhere and completely natural. It's how we form opinions and a start to provide feedback to developers. Comparison is not your enemy. I promise if you're mindful about your comments, you shouldn't hurt anyone's feelings. Now, I use "shouldn't" very loosely because I know you've seen the way people have been getting offended on these large companies and non-sentient forms of entertainment's behalf. It really is a useful tool to start conversations and consider other options. But unfortunately, we've learned a lot of us aren't ready for that level of maturity yet. How do we fix this issue? Looking back about 2 years ago, I had this problem myself. I could not stand to see or hear people enjoy The Sims 4. It made no sense to me. This was a very irrational anger towards a part of the community that was the final straw of ruining my enjoyment for the game. I haven't touched live mode since. I was no longer having fun, and as a result, it was causing me to lose enthusiasm in other hobbies like gaming and creating videos. I ended up making 2 videos of the realization that none of this was fun anymore, and a mindset shift was definitely needed. But to get there, I took time away from the game and community to swallow some hard truths that hurt on the way down, but at least I can have fun now. I hated this one at first, but had to come to terms with The Sims 4 is lacking, but despite my frustrations, it really isn't the worst game in the world. I was then able to understand there are players who do genuinely enjoy the game. No, they really weren't being delusional. I mean, at one point, I loved The Sims 4. It wasn't until 2022 that I really started to struggle to play The Sims 4. Before that, I was in deep with complicated storylines with every and all mods. This is also easy to spot the difference online if their praise for the game isn't at the expense of another game or player. This is having fun with The Sims 4. This is toxic. Good, sad, enjoying life, being miserable, and wanting others to feel the same. As you can see, people with sad, weird vibes over life sims have been around and aren't going anywhere for a while. These comments have no real purpose but to get under your skin. Leave it alone. That's truly how I had to talk to myself for a while. Keep scrolling and delusion is your friend. You're not going to change these people's minds and make them see reason. I feel like I'm in some 2012 bullying campaign. Like, girl, it's just life sims. But really though, this is out there and you really have to act like this online sometimes.